Y'all, at this point, all I want to know is,
Hey, what's going on here?
hey y'all, welcome to my channel Reviewed, where we talk about all things television and film from today and yesteryear. So I just wanted to come on here and do a quick recap of episodes 8 and 9 of Grotesquerie. So the episode starts off with Professor Merritt, and this is what I'm here for. Okay, honey, do not have her sitting around here looking like a garbage pail kid from the 1980s, baby. Give me educated, sophisticated, gorgeous Merritt. Okay, so Merritt is in the classroom, honey. She is a professor at a college. And she's basically having conversation with her students. She gets ready to dismiss the class, and here come this team of doctors walking in. So Mary sits down with this doctor who basically lets her know that he's doing a study, something in reference to neuroimaging, MRI and things of that nature, whatnot. So he basically lets Merritt know that Lois, she was not necessarily in a coma or a comatose state, basically like she was in a dream world. And I'm like, wait a minute. So what are we talking about here? Nightmare on Elm Street? Like, are y'all freaking kidding me? So this whole time, Lois was not basically in a living hell or Babylon, whatever. Like she has been dreaming this whole time. So, Merritt, she agrees to go along with it, and listen to some of the dreams that her mom was having. And then so the doctor basically lets Merritt know, she had you on a television show, and Mary was like, "Ooh, TV, honey, I do not watch TV. I watch The Wire on a loop, like, And she was like, "What was the name of the show my mom had me on?" And he was like, "Halftime Trauma" or whatever. And of course, Mary is like, "Yeah, that's just like my mom or whatnot." So I'm completely blown, y'all, because they have completely flipped the script on everything in reference to this show. Okay. So here we have Lois, she's going through physical therapy trying to get her strength back up because apparently she has been in this comatose slash dream world for 6 weeks. And so, this is just her practicing walking and things of that nature, just trying to get her strength built back up. So here we are in what appears to be the actual reality, okay, with Marshall and Nurse Red. They're basically having a conversation, and Marshall lets her know that since Lois is completely awake and alert, that he is going to go ahead and file for divorce. He was like, it's trying to go ahead and put a pin in this situation and be done with it. And Nurse Red basically lets him know, she's like, don't do it on my behalf, honey. Don't be trying to divorce her because you think that is something that I want. She's like, that is your decision. Ain't got nothing to do with me. Okay. And here we have the doctor talking to Detective Megan, aka Detective TMZ. Okay. So honey, she is no longer Sister Mary TMZ. Ma'am is a whole detective in whatever reality this is. Okay. So the doctor is basically talking to her and just letting her know how the dreams that Lois was having about her, consisted of her being a actual nun and that she was tied to Father Charlie, who we later learn is the actual doctor. Just a whole bunch of foolishness. I'm like completely dumbfounded. Like, seriously. So later on in the show, honey, we learned that Detective TMZ got a whole fool for a boyfriend, honey. He is abusive. She come home and he was like, "I'm hungry." And, she looking at him like, "Okay, you've been sitting in this seat all day. What you mean you hungry? Like, I just walked in the door, food." So she goes into the kitchen and she heats up some Chinese food, and he come in there because he's sitting down and drinking or whatever when she comes in the house. And he basically pops her upside her head like, no. But one thing about her, she was not afraid of him at all. So, baby, in the midst of them tussling, he ends up pimp slapping her, honey, and bruises her face and her eye. Baby, she pulled that blicky out and put it in his mouth. When I tell you she was not here for it, she was like, "I'm not scared of you. You are going to learn to respect me, or you're going to have to go." And he was like, "This is my house. You leave." And of course, she did. So, of course, the detective, she ends up pulling up to the motel, the same motel that we saw when it looks like they were basically in the doomsday desert. Okay. She goes to that motel, she walks over to the pool, and she sees a woman swimming in that pool, the same pool that looked like purple haze or whatnot. She stands there and she's just watching. And she ends up going into the actual motel. The front desk clerk is a completely different woman. And, the woman looks at her and she sees the bruise on her face. And she basically asks her, "Oh, do you need any assistance?" And, Detective TMZ is just like, "No, I'm fine. I just need a room." Basically, she just needs a place to lay down and clear her mind, I guess. So, this is Lois sitting down talking to the doctor, and she's basically telling him that, her dreams that she were having, they were very realistic. They were, very vivid dreams. And he told her that sometimes the subconscious can do that to you. That can allow you to make you believe that you're actually in that state or whatever. And she also just basically starts remembering things that transpired in her dreams that actually took place in, I guess, her real life. And so as she's basically talking to the doctor, and she goes into the moment where she was like, Andrea. So Andrea was the woman that they picked up on the road, the hitchhiker or whatever, when they was in that whatever doomsday looking scenario. So in real life, she was not able to help the young lady. But in her dreams, she rescued her, when she jumped in a car or whatever, and they drove her to the motel for safety or whatnot. But the lady on the table, that is the actual outcome of the lady Andrea. But in her dreams and her subconscious, she was actually able to save the woman, which I don't see how she did that, because we saw the old girl get snatched up. Okay. So she's still sitting and talking to the doctor, and she's just basically just like, she says to him, she was like, she couldn't believe how mean she was to her daughter. And the doctor basically says to her that sometimes you in your subconscious and when you're dreaming, your true feelings about how you feel about someone are actually expressed. And he was like, maybe you were ashamed of your daughter Merritt, because you know how Merritt had a desire with food, as well as Lois had a desire for alcohol. And she also makes a statement about Merritt's husband Ed being her actual sponsor. So, I guess he was Captain Save a Ho or whatever, because he did help her. I guess in reality, Lois does have a drinking problem, but Merritt's husband was the one who basically would go to meetings and things with her, and she in turn ended up having an affair with old boy. Like, girl, no, ma'am. So Merritt mom did have an affair with Merritt's husband, Ed. Like that, she basically says that out of her mouth to the doctor. And, she also, goes into her marriage and how she was not happy in her marriage and things like that. So I guess that's why we got to see the reverse side of her husband being the one who was in a coma, when in actuality she was the one in a coma, and she was just basically dreaming that he was in a position that she was in. Just a whole bunch of stuff. And they also end up going into how she ends up meeting Macy. So we find out that Lois and Maisie are actually friends, that Lois met Maisie. Maisie was an actual protester for abortion. And, Lois was sent there basically to apprehend the people and to break things up, because folks was, outside the clinics or whatever protesting. And that's how she ended up meeting Maisie. So remember, I guess in her dreams, Maisie was a baby stealer. And also remember when Macy said that she wanted to protect the children. She was kidnapping the children because the mothers did not mean them any good. Like all the mothers was going to do were harm those kids. And now we see that that's how she was able to incorporate Macy in her dreams, because the episode when Macy was in was the person who was actually stealing babies. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that Maisie was pro-life, and that episode kind of revolved around someone stealing babies, I guess, to save them. Now we find out that that's how she ended up meeting Macy in her reality, was because Maisie was a actual protester. She was against, abortions. So, honey, Lois gets released from the hospital, and Detective TMZ is the one that ends up picking her up, and because nobody else want to fool with her, basically. That is the type of problems, I guess you could say, that Lois left before she went and laid down for 6 weeks. Okay, and on the ride home, when Detective TMZ was talking to her, you could tell that they don't necessarily uh, get along, but they, I guess, respect each other as co-workers or whatever, because uh Detective TMZ does let Lois know. She's like, I always looked up to you, basically I admired you, trying to big her up. But Lois is still not trying to hear it. I'm like, girl, she doing you a solid by bringing you behind home. Like, what's really going on? But they have a not so nice banter when Detective TMZ is dropping Lois off at home. And I'm not sure exactly if we will get the initial fallout between the two of them. And if we did, honey, I completely missed it. Okay. Here we get to see Lois. Her and Macy see each other for the first time. Macy's like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're home. So good to see you." And you can tell that the two of them have a pretty good relationship. Macy is Lois' housekeeper, and basically her errand girl. Like you get to see a lot of interaction with the two of them, and you could just tell that they genuinely have a fondness for each other. So here we are at a follow-up appointment with Lois and Dr. Charlie, aka Father Charlie. Honey, this show has really sent me, okay? Basically, I guess that Lois had Father Charlie be the villain in her dreams because in actuality, he could control somewhat what she was going through, with her being in a coma, comatose state or whatever. She did not have any wherewithal or control over what was going on. It was basically like he had her life in his hands. And so with that, with her not having any control over that, I guess that's what allowed her to have him be the villain in her dreams. I guess. I don't know. So, honey, here we have Macy driving Miss Lois, honey. She's basically going to take her to see her daughter, and Macy is not here for it. She was like, I just do not think it's a good idea. But of course, Lois wants to see her daughter. She is at the point in her life where she is basically trying to pick up the pieces. So she ends up showing up at Merritt's house, and honey, Merritt let her in, but she was not here for it at all. They end up having a discussion, and of course, Merritt smacks the fire out of Lois' face. Baby, let me tell you something. The fact that Lois slept with Ed, her daughter's husband, completely trifling. But I don't know if I would ever have the wherewithal to slap my mom in her face. Like, regardless of what she did, that is still your mother. But baby, in that moment, Mary was like, "You are not my mother. You just another horn in the street," and she handled it as such. Okay. Baby Lois got back to that car. Mason was like, "Are you okay?" And Lois was like, "I'm fine." Wiping her lip, baby, because baby Mary slapped fire from her face. Okay. And she was like, "Let's just go get that milkshake." Because Macy was like, "I told you it wasn't a good idea." But Macy, she is trying to be a support system for Lois. So she just basically go along and get along. So later on, we get to see Lois go to Marshall and Nurse Red's house. Okay. And she basically is apologizing to Marshall for her part and the wrong that she did in the demise of their marriage. And she basically also lets her know, she said, "I remember when you came to the hospital and you told me to go ahead and be with the Grim Reaper." She was like, "I remember you saying that to me." And Nurse Red ends up looking at him like, side eyeing him like, "Really? Really?" But Lois just basically says, um, "I am getting ready to leave. I need a fresh start. I'm moving." And she slides the divorce papers over to Marshall along with the wedding ring. And he was like, "Oh, so I'm just supposed to be cool with you? Like, oh, since you basically giving me the divorce, we supposed to be on good terms?" It's like, man, miss me with that. And she was just like, I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm giving you what we both need and what we both deserve. It is what it is. So we have another moment with Lois. She's talking to the doctor, and she is just basically reflecting on all the things that she basically was dreaming about when she was in a coma. And here we just have another doctor that came in to basically ask Lois questions about her dreams and give his perspective on what he felt was going on as well. Because again, she is having flashes of these dreams, but we are seeing them play out in the perspective of where Detective Megan, aka Detective TMZ, was basically the front runner of certain crimes that we saw Lois be the front runner in. It's just a lot. I really was not expecting this. Like, they literally flipped the script on me. Like, I this show, oh my god, the show completely flipped. It did. It just flipped.
Did the flip flop shit on me. Just like a hoe I knew in Detroit back in 62, 63.
Lois goes to see her daughter again, and she is basically letting her daughter know that she is going to be leaving. She was like, "If you want us to ever have a relationship, you'll come find me." And of course, Lois gets her lick back, baby. She was like, "Baby, that smack you gave me," she said, "it hurt like you know what." And she ends up smacking her back. But she basically is just letting her daughter know, like, if you knew how difficult it was to sometimes deal with you, then you will understand where I'm coming from. And Mary makes a case just like, so, that gives you the right to go sleep with my husband, because it's no excuse for that. I don't care how down in the bottle she was. Like, at some point, honey, you got to know when to turn on some common sense, okay? But she just basically, she's closing the door, but she's leaving another one open, okay, when it comes to her relationship with Merritt. And I think she just wanted to get whatever was still there off of her chest, to basically clear the air and be like, look, I'm gonna do my part. I'm moving away. I'm going to, figure things out. And later on down the line, if you decide that you want to have a relationship with me, then you'll know how to find me one way or another. So, honey, Lois gets home and Red is sitting at the table talking to Mason. Baby, let me tell you something. I was like, you got to be some kind of special to sit up in a woman's house after you've been having an affair with her husband all this time. And baby, we ain't even gonna call Red the mistress no more, honey. We just gonna call her a girlfriend because it was completely out in the open. Okay, Lois even said that she actually liked her. Like, girl, miss me with it. So, honey, Red lets Lois know. She was like, honey, if you don't want Mister, I don't want him either.
Mr. Mister. Period.
Honey, Lois basically lets Red know, no, ma'am, this is not Best Buy. There will be no exchanges or returns. Don't even worry about the receipt. Okay. She was like, you wanted them, you can have them. And, Nurse Red, she is just at the point of her life. She was like, she's basically saying, I don't want him if he ain't gonna be married to you. She was like, I like the fact that I didn't have to deal with him 24/7. She was like, I want what you are going in search of. She was like, I want freedom. I want solitude. I want to be able to think on my own and be on my own and deal with whoever when I want to. You know, it's just based, it is actually just dawning on her, Red, that she is literally going to be dealing with Marshall, full time when she's used to dealing with him part time. And Lois was like, "You welcome. He is a man of a certain age. Of course, he's gonna be up under you all the time. That's what they do." She was like, I am doing what is best for me. And she was saying to Red, you need to do what's going to be best for you. And ultimately, I don't know if Red is going to leave Marshall, but some women are like that. They like to be with married men because it is a temporary thing, it is not full time. And apparently, Red is that woman. Like, baby, I don't need to be around you all the time. I only need you part time. And you can go back home afterwards. But honey, Lois let her know, don't bring him back to my front door because it will not be open at all. So here's when things get a little crazy. Okay. So Lois is taking a nap and she gets a phone call from Detective TMZ. So once Lois pulls up, honey, she is starting to have premonitions because she already knows what is about to happen. Okay. We get the same story as far as the outcome of the family, just a different family. The family with the Last Supper on the first episode, completely identical. The people are sitting at the table bound and gagged, the mother, the kids. Of course, the husband is on the kitchen floor. He has been decapitated. And so Lois is basically like living in her dreams, or should I say nightmare, okay? Because this is the exact crime scene that she dreamed about. So now it's like her dreams are coming true. It's like, okay, so she was having visions, I guess, and she is not here for it at all. And of course, she walks into the kitchen. She's already crying because she knows what to expect. And she walks over. We see a pot boiling atop the stove. Of course, we do not get a glimpse of what is in the pot, but we already know that it is a baby. Because again, this is the same scenario, the same situation that happened when she was now what we know was in a coma and having these dreams. So now she is just like, okay, what is going on? Something has got to give because this ain't it. Later on, she ends up going to see Detective TMZ at the motel. And she basically is talking to her. She's like, this has got to be a dream realm. Like, I know they're telling me that I woke up, but clearly I still must be dreaming. And she is basically talking to, Detective TMZ, and she was like, I need you to make sure that I'm still not asleep. I need you to make sure that I am actually awake. So she takes off her jacket and she asks Detective TMZ to basically, cut her with a knife because she was like, I need to see. She said, if I don't bleed, that means I must be dreaming. And she was like, if I feel it and I bleed, that means that I'm actually here. This is my actual reality. And of course, she ends up, hesitantly, she cuts her with a knife and she starts to bleed. And she's just like, okay, what is going on? And she ends up going into the bathroom to clean herself up. While she's in the bathroom cleaning herself up, we got this fool show up at the door, honey. When I tell you, he just basically went berserk on her, like, no hello, how you doing? This fool, and first, how did he know where she was staying? That's another thing. Like, how did this guy know where Detective TMZ was staying? Like, that just blew me away. So they start fighting, and Lois, she's in the bathroom and she hears all the scuffling and everything going on. So she ends up going out there and she, pulls out the blicky and she, holds it to him. She's like, you better get up off of her. And he gets up off her, and he is basically talking ish to Lois. He think he can talk out the side of his neck to her like he does to Detective TMZ. And the weird thing is Detective TMZ is telling Lois, lower the blicky, like, you know, and she starts to say to her, no, you are dreaming. This isn't real. This isn't real. And Lois is like, what is going on? Like, you're defending him. This man was up here whipping your behind, and here you are defending him. And she was just like, he's sick, Lois. He's sick, just put it away. Don't harm him. And the dude is still talking smack. He's talking all this and that out of the side of his neck to Lois. And he was like, I dare you to do it. And she ends up popping his behind. And this is the end result of him thinking he can talk to anybody the way he was talking to Detective TMZ, honey. Lois was like, not me, sir. Not today. I don't play the radio. Here you go. And so this is where the episode ends, guys. Detective TMZ, honey, she was in shock that Lois actually pulled that pop old boy with the blicky, okay? Um, I honestly, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. If this is the actual reality, where the characters are, I can say they literally threw me for a loop because I was not expecting this at all. I believe we got one more episode, and I'm just curious to how all of this is going to end up wrapping up. Will we actually find out what initially put Lois in a coma, or was it an alcohol-induced coma if she, was drinking on that level? Um, but I can honestly say I was not really happy with these two episodes this week. It was just like, come on, y'all. I don't know. We shall see. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate the support, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.